Okay, so let's work with our form itself. I got my model of customer and I've added email, password, and confirm password. But we want to have validation. We want to make certain, remember, the user is the enemy. They will not put information in the way we want to. We must force them to put information in the way we want to. So we're going to have to go ahead and add some data annotations. You don't have to use data annotations, but honest to gosh, they're simple. Like they're very easy to use, and it's way better than writing your own code to do this stuff. So I'm going to use the required data annotation. They don't come up off the bat, so just hover over it, and the light bulb will come up, and then you can use the using statement, and there you go. So all the ones that you must give these to me when you fill out this form. I'm going to have required. And this one's also required. So basically just about everything's required. Now remember, if you don't like the error message, that default one, you could do error message, you could do parentheses and error message equals and then custom error message would go there. Okay, so if you don't like it, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like the default because that's good enough for what I want. Outside of required, there's other data annotations like email address, okay, but which we'll check to see if it's something something at something something dot something. For passwords, you got to use datatype.datatype.password, which will cover up the letters as you type them and give you a little, depending on your browser. Some browsers I think don't have the I thing, some do, right? So we've got that, and then I want to make certain, so this confirm password variable is for the second field where they will retype their password. So I'm going to use the compare annotation to see how you can string these things together. I don't want an error message. I do want to compare it to the password. So the thing here's compare, and then the parameter you put inside of it is the name of the other property you're looking at. So this is password. That is looking at this property called password right here. The two have to be the same in order for it to move along. And really, data annotations, like I said, are pretty simple. Like, so they've got phone, you've got email address, you've got password, you've got required. You can say that no more than 50 characters. There's a lot of little things you can do, and it makes validation a lot easier. And so usually in my model, I go through and I add the annotations and make certain that the things that are required are required. Another cool one for any framework is not mapped. So not mapped will mean, hey, I don't want this in the database. So for example, when I register a user, I have their password. I don't want their confirmed password. They already wrote it. So I don't really want this in the database. So I'm just going to go ahead and not have this there in the database. In fact, while I'm at it, I'm going to do migration. I think it's still in there. Let's check and see. Yeah, let's get rid of it. So I'm going to update database and drop that column. Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, so this one is not going to be in the database because I don't need the password twice in the database. All right, so I've got my model and I've got my data annotations to do my validation for me. All right, so this is where when I usually do my job, I do work and do things like this. I usually start with the model so that because everything else kind of flows from the model. So all your validation, the way things look and everything come from the model. Another thing you can do is a display. Display name equals first name. This is how it will show up and look to the user. I don't want last name with no space. I want last space name. And then you also can leave like instructions. Could be like, please confirm your password. Okay, and that way you can put little messages to the user. And so I've got a pretty decent model now. I got the required fields of what the user must give me. I've got some validation for common things like email and password, and I think we're good. All right, so I'm going to save this. Right, so we're done with the customer, so we don't need to really do anything with this anymore. All right, so for the customer controller, I have my register view, which we saw earlier, and then I'm going to show you what this is all about. But let's do the register view first. So I'm going to go to customer folder, register CHTML, and then I've got my form. All right, first main thing is at the top, your views need a model. Basically, what is the data that this view is representing? So the keyword is at. Remember, at means we're doing code, model, and then you just put the name of the thing. Like, so in this case, it's customer. Okay. You can have a singular class as the model. You could have a list of customer as your model. It's really up to you as long as it's a type. That is going to be your model for your view. And then I've got my form. So the two big things here is you need a form tag. So this form, so you would start off with like this, form, ASP action, and I'm going to change this around a little bit because originally it was create, but in my controller it's called register. So I want to make certain that when you submit this form, when you click the submit button, that it will post the result of the form to the register method right here. Okay, so I'm going to call this register. Okay, and the next are all these tag helpers where you see like ASP4, the dark green are tag helpers. And it basically makes it a lot easier to show the form to the user. It will take in all the validation and the display information from the model and put it into the view for us. That way we don't have to type all that stuff out. So any change you make to this customer will be reflected in the view automatically. It will grab it from the model and bring it into the view. So let's run this. Okay, cool. We're going to go to customer, register. All right, now notice that this and this, I'm going to line them right up. All right, so this is the form. That's this keyword form here. And then we've got, each of these is a form group. So this is a form group, another form group, etc., etc. So notice we have first name, last name, etc., etc. And notice how this is first space name. So this presentation, like it says, please confirm your password. That came from here. So that's a nice thing. These tag helpers will read this information from the model and put it into the view. Nice and convenient for us. So if you ever want to change this message, you just go into the model and change it. It's really nice. Okay. These labels, right? This is a label. Okay, that's what these are, called labels, and they have the label tag. Right? These are inputs. These boxes are inputs. So you would use the input tag. The rest is the classes are from Bootstrap to make it look a little bit nicer. So that you have like nice rounded edges and things like that. So if you don't have to have those, but you can, what I'm saying, but it looks nicer this way. All right, so validation. So this we said was required. So right now, let's say I tried to like submit the form with nothing in it. Right, first name field is required. Last name field is required. These are the default ones. Okay, so we're going to put the name, John Smith at gmail.com. And we'll put password. And so you can see that they're dots, and if you click this, you can see what you actually wrote. And they match. If they don't match, they'll tell you. All right, I'm going to put a break here. And then I'm going to actually go ahead and post. Right, so this create it's submit. So let's go look back at the HTML. This button is here. You see it says type submit. Okay, type submit. That means it's a submission button, meaning I'm filling out a form, I'm taking all the data in that form and submitting it to the controller. Okay, so when I click this create, it will submit this form, all this information. See how we're in our register method now with the post. It's got the customer, and if we hover over it, we see this is all the information from the form. Password 123, John Smith, etc. Okay, this model state that is valid will check to see if it's valid. What that means is, did you fill, if something's required, is it there? Is the email address correct? Is the password correct? Right, so our model state is valid, so we always want to make certain that our model that's being passed in is valid. We don't want to try to put bad data into the SQL table because SQL will yell at us. So we're going to add the customer to the database, then we are going to save changes and redirect them to the index page once we're done. Okay, I don't have an index page. Forgot to make one. All right, let's go do that. So we're gonna make an index. Cool. All right, there we got one. Customer index. Cool. So see, that's what the nice thing about NVC is that this sort of stuff is really like easy because you can just add a view and then as long as you have this method here, it works. All right, but let's go look at the database. Okay, see, John Smith and his password. Now, that's basically what it does. It will save the stuff from the form to the database, and now we can save our data long term. Let me get back to Visual Studio. All right, so again, the form post. It was going to be you're going to put this annotation here, this post. This is just for security when you post forms. You want to read up about it, feel free. You're going to have the name register. And then here is the stuff that might be a little bit confusing. This bind is basically taking form data. It's taking data from the form and turning it into a customer object. So I'm going to go back for a second just to make that super clear. Okay, so let's go customer, register. Okay, so you fill stuff into this form, right? What bind is doing is saying, okay, the person put first name in for first name. I'm going to make a new customer object and make its first name equal to what the person passed in, and then do the same thing for everything else. Okay, so that way this customer will be filled with data that we put in from the form. That's what this bind is doing. Okay, that's what goes in here. Now, in last class, we talked also about like we don't want to save passwords like this. Like in real world, you would never ever under any circumstances do this. So you do need a library for that. It's going to be bcrypt.net. So we're going to go to right-click this, and we're going to manage NuGet packages. Go to browse. We're going to do bcrypt.net. Really? Bcrypt. Oh, bcrypt.net. Okay, not brcrypt. All right, so it's bcrypt.net -next. This is the one by Chris McKee. This is the one you want. It's got like 6 gajillion downloads because it's popular. Okay, it's installed. All right, and it's very simple. So here, what I would do is, since we're registering a new user, I am going to hash their password first before saving it. Okay, so I'm going to hash their password first, then save it. Okay, so we're going to transform the password first into something that a hacker would have difficulty working with. So you can just do this. Customer.password is equal to bcrypt.net.bcrypt.hash password. It's a function they already have for us. We're going to pass in, don't mess with me, IntelliSense. All right, so we're going to, this is very simple, right? They like to keep it, that's why we're using a library. It's nice and simple. What we're going to do now is we're going to try it out. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this horrific thing right here. I'm going to truncate table customers. This gets rid of all the data inside of it while dropping the table. Truncate table gets rid of all the data inside the table without dropping the table itself. All right, let's run it. Okay, cool. Let's go to customer, register. Let's register ourselves a new customer. I'm going to put a stopper here for the debug so we can see what the heck's going on. All right, I'm going to put Joe Schmo, joe.schmo@schmo.com. Okay, and he has the world's most common password. The most common password in the United States, and I'm not kidding you, is password 123. All right, so his password, instead of being password123, looks like this. This is the hash. Okay, there's a very complicated algorithm. Please do not ask me to explain it. I don't know number theory very well, but it takes password123 and turns it into this, and this is what we're going to save into the database. So we're going to continue. Okay, cool. Went back to the index. Okay, this is the customer index. See how this redirect to action said, okay, it said you were going to go to the index. You could think of it like go to here. And that's what it did. If we go into our happy little database. No, I don't want to save that. Select top 1000. And notice that his password was saved in the hash mode. This is normal. Okay, this is what you would actually see in the wild. Is if someone broke into your SQL database, they would, have a good luck figure out what the heck this originally was. All right, so that should give you some hints. Like I said, you're going to basically follow this essential format for putting in your fields. You need a submit button. Okay, its type needs to be submit. That is important because the form is expecting a submit button. The method in your controller that handles the form post should be a post, HTTP post. You take in a customer, which is the form data, and then you save it to the database. And these are the steps. There's not much There's really no variation to this. It's just add, then save changes. Okay, that's the way it works. All right, so just use this as your guide as you're doing your form. And feel free to experiment with different stuff, but like your data annotations will take care of a lot of the validation heavy lifting for you. That's why I'm showing them to you, because they're extremely useful. All right, good luck, guys.